Maxing kick streamer Clavicular was arrested in Arizona on Saturday night.
He very openly does drugs. He takes Adderall, and these are all things that he talks about very openly, and he is 20 years old. He is talking about using illicit, illegal drugs on his live streams every single night.
Clavicular has quickly become one of the most controversial figures in streaming. But rather than hurting his career, it's almost like he skates by every single controversy and only gets more popular. And a gay Jewish man from southern Florida is behind all of it. The same PR person who works for Clavicular also happens to represent Candace Owens. And a lot of the drama surrounding Clavicular, including the legal cases in the past month, have been carefully controlled by one very interesting figure, Mitchell Jackson. Mitchell began as a senior staff writer at Broadly, which was a women's publication owned by Vice. Here, he wrote about many controversial figures like Paris Hilton, Rachel Dolezal, and Ann Coulter, and often through a very sympathetic lens. However, in 2017, BuzzFeed News exposed Mitchell as a controversial figure in his own right. Joseph Bernstein wrote a feature about the right-wing commentator Milo Yiannopoulos, who supposedly had some hidden helpers in the liberal media. Mitchell was found to have emailed Yiannopoulos, "Please mock this fat feminist," along with a link to an article about the body-positive writer Lindy West. Soon after this email, an article appeared about West in his publication, Breitbart News. He was also friendly with Tim Jonnet at Breitbart. He sent him a Broadly video about how the Satanic Temple were embracing abortion rights and said, "Do whatever with this on Breitbart. It's insane." The next day, Breitbart published an article titled, "Satanic Temple Joins Planned Parenthood in Pro-Abortion Crusade." On the surface, it looks as if Mitchell was secretly right-wing and was destroying the left from the inside. But the reality is far more interesting. Mitchell told Vanity Fair, "I drove traffic, whether that was me, with my boss's permission, sending opposition media our story so they'd make fun of them, or I had a good instinct for what would sell." The BuzzFeed article led to Mitchell being fired from his job and being, quote, canceled. He would later branch into PR where he could still work in journalism, but carefully behind the scenes. The journalist Taylor Lorenz, who worked with him at Vice, spoke about his cancellation and said, "I actually think if that scandal had happened now, I don't think he would have lost his job or been pushed out. The whole of conservative media would rally around something like that." And when speaking about Mitchell's new life now, Lorenz gave a fascinating response. She said, "The thing about Mitchell is he recognizes that it's all a game. He's able to position his clients and work with the press effectively because he understands their goals. And there's no better example than his latest star client, Clavicular." In January 2026, Clavicular was heavily scrutinized for being a part of a group of streamers who played the controversial song Double H by Ye while on a night out in Miami. Clavicular had previously played the song several times on his own stream and it never got this much attention. But another person in the group was Andrew Tate, who did multiple podcasts defending himself on the incident and shifting blame towards others. However, Clavicular's response was a lot more relaxed.
Banned from all clubs? Okay, does that mean I'm screwed? Because if you are judging the metric of me being screwed by being banned from clubs, then I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be fine, bro. You know? Oh my God, no, I'm banned from the nightclubs. Oh shit, dude. Like, I could give a fuck, man. Did I talk to promoter Nate? Yeah, he knew it was a joke, man. I told him, I was like, bro, it's all lighthearted stuff. I don't actually give a shit about Jews or whatever. You know? And he was like, yeah, man, I get it. I know you guys do content. And he said, I think I'm a cool guy. You know, him and his assistant say I'm a good guy or whatever. And I was like, bro, I appreciate that. So that was a cool response of him. I think he was mature about it, unlike everyone on social media just freaking out over literally playing a funny song.
The fact is that this response is very much in line with Mitchell Jackson's approach to controversy. When facing a potential cancellation, the most natural response is to apologize and try to make the situation go away. Panic. But that's not how he and his clients operate. Before representing Clavicular, Jackson did an interview with Anna Silman from GQ in May of 2025, which revealed his way of handling media pressure. Silman noticed that Jackson was carrying a 1994 issue of Vibe magazine where Lisa Lopez from TLC was dressed as a firefighter. This was a response to the controversy that she had burnt down her boyfriend's house. Jackson was going to show this magazine to one of his clients and told Silman she didn't apologize, she mocked the situation. But then, in the actual interview, she talks about how she does have mental health problems, and other people talk about how she's a victim of DV. So it really covers all the bases. And Clavicular's approach was to also not take the controversy seriously. He thought the song was funny and didn't care about being banned from nightclubs in Miami. Merely days later, though, Clavicular was involved in a much more serious scandal. And once again, there was a highly strategic response.
Unmasking kick streamer Clavicular was arrested in Arizona on Saturday night. The 20-year-old was at this bar/nightclub in Scottsdale, and according to local police, he was escorted out before being put into custody.
This made major headlines, and in the New York Times, they wrote about Clavicular's colorful publicist. It says, but around 11 p.m., word began to spread in the bar that Clavicular had been arrested. Mitchell Jackson, his publicist, took a hurried phone call to confirm. The Scottsdale police had taken his client into custody and would go on to charge him with 2 felonies, possession of a forged instrument, and possession use of a dangerous drug. A judge forbade him to leave the state. Mr. Jackson sensed an opportunity. I want this to be an iconic mugshot that can be sold on t-shirts and malls, he said. Clavicular's fans were shocked, but his haters were thrilled.
So now let's see what's going to happen to this piece when he can't do the things he wants to do no more.
Eventually, he's going to be soap maxing, and so whether he uses a soap to wash his body or to perhaps lubricate certain orifices, Clavicular is going to have a good time, or, well, depending if he likes it or not, a very bad time.
You are a world authority on somebody called Clavicular, who I have to say hasn't brushed my life particularly. He got arrested at the weekend.
He very openly does drugs. He takes Adderall, and these are all things that he talks about very openly, and he is 20 years old. He is talking about using illicit, illegal drugs on his live streams every single night. So honestly, it's like a wonder that he has not been arrested prior to this. But yes, he was arrested. He went to a frat party at ASU over the weekend. He had a prescription pill in his pocket, and I don't think he had the prescription on him. I don't know if he even has a prescription for it. He was also using a fake ID. They arrested him. Now the fake ID charge has been upped to a forgery charge. He's not allowed to leave Arizona, which is a big problem for him, Pierce, because he was about to walk in New York Fashion Week. That's some exclusive tea that I have for you. So he's not going to be able to do that because he's stuck in Arizona.
And this is a very crucial component for anyone looking to be successful in media in 2026. In a Vanity Fair article, Mitchell revealed that Candace Owens' popularity comes from striking the balance between love and hate. Jackson's guiding philosophy is that divisiveness is key, which Owens shares. Some people have to love you, but some people have to hate you, he argues. The secret to longevity in the spotlight is leaning into the controversy. The people who hate her and send out clips every week to the same 10 Twitter accounts are really helpful for promoting the show. I don't want them to stop. And just like with Candace Owens, it's also very helpful to fight back against your haters too.
Cool.
Bro, imagine being her husband and this could get on a interview panel and talk about me for 30 minutes straight. Like, bro, I would be mauling hard if I was that.
And then
Clavicular, since he started, has attracted love and hate, but at the moment he seems to be controlling this balance a lot better. Since Mitchell has become his publicist, Clavicular also stopped using the N-word, which has definitely toned down a lot of the hate he got earlier, which he probably felt was unnecessary, and made it much easier to defend him. Fortunately for Clavicular, he escaped any charges in Arizona and made his way to New York Fashion Week. And this is where you really see Mitchell's media manipulation at work. The New York Times article I mentioned earlier was instrumental in drumming up hype for the event. And rather interestingly, this New York Times article about Clavicular was written by Joseph Bernstein, the very journalist that canceled Mitchell in 2017. So this should give you an idea of just how small the media landscape is. But during New York Fashion Week, we also witnessed just how small the streaming and content world can be. Clavicular was invited by the conservative-leaning fashion designer Elena Velez, or the one that is more open to conservative-leaning people in comparison to the rest of the fashion industry. And another person she invited to this show was one of Clavicular's biggest haters, which they say there's a thin line between love and hate, Brett Cooper. You saw her earlier speaking to Piers Morgan about how much she hates him, and she was a conservative commentator under Ben Shapiro's network before going out on her own. But during New York Fashion Week, she finally got to meet him in person.
Hello.
hello from New York and New York Fashion Week. I am going to my very first ever New York Fashion Week fashion show, which is very crazy and very cool. Yes, you might have seen Clavicular walked in the show. Because he was there and because I was in attendance, there is now all of this discourse on X, I would say, about me being there and watching while he walked and meeting him. And God forbid, this is the worst, God forbid, I'm so sorry that I did this, but I smiled at him. Oh my God, cue the meltdowns, guys. They are freaking out over on X.
Brett, what's up?
How's it going?
How are you? Amazing.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming.
Good job.
You thought it was good?
The show's very good. I did not even know that Clavicular was going to be walking in the show when I was first invited and agreed to go. I actually didn't think that he was going to make it after all because he was literally just in jail in Arizona. But yes, he ended up walking, and obviously I was going to take the opportunity to meet him. Sometimes two women go out without their husbands, and sometimes women, oh my God, interact with the male species. Again, touch grass, log off. It will be better for you, I guarantee.
But despite being at odds with each other before, they both have one very important thing in common. Brett's publicist is also Mitchell Jackson. So this is a highly beneficial relationship for both sides. Clavicular leads a lifestyle that her audience hates and provides content for her. Clavicular, meanwhile, gets more publicity from being content on Brett's channel. This is almost the streaming world's equivalent of Mitchell working for Vice and getting Breitbart to write articles about them. Clavicular then appeared on the Adam Friedland Show, which is another one of Jackson's clients.
That's not really gesture maxing, though. Gesture maxing would be like
Juggling. Yeah.
that, or just like maybe self-deprecating humor would be like one thing.
Yeah.
And this is yet another mutually beneficial relationship. Jackson has been described as the secret weapon in getting so many high-profile guests for the Adam Friedland Show, and this lighthearted interview also took away the seriousness associated with Clavicular's arrest and the Miami nightclub incident, on top of the vehicle incident that happened a month before that. Clavicular also did an interview with Kieran Press Reynolds at GQ, but GQ did not have the same privileges that the Adam Friedland Show had. According to Press Reynolds, Jackson told me I couldn't conduct my interview off-stream, but he manages to get Clavicular to not record while taping an episode of his client Adam Friedland's YouTube talk show the day after Clavicular's runway debut. And Press Reynolds had some very interesting things to say about Jackson, writing, "Throughout the time we're together, Jackson behaved less like a publicist than a handler for an unaccompanied minor. He even referred to Clavicular as his son at one point. When a couple of people with a camera snuck into the fashion show to gather footage for a Hulu doc about Clavicular, Jackson barked to have them ejected. If it was Netflix, that would be one thing, Clavicular reasons. No one gives a F about Hulu. During my sit-down interview with Clavicular in the Sprinter, Jackson kept trying to look over my shoulder at the questions on my laptop." Press Reynolds also heard Jackson tell Clavicular, "Page 6 wrote some bit thing about what happened at the club, but all I care about is that you're in Page 6. They also discussed a negative article about Clavicular at New York Fashion Week and the different right-wing groups that were at the event. The article read, "On one side is Teal's incendiary hipsters and Vice President J.D. Vance aligned edgelords, and on the other is Fuentes black-pilled neats. And what's most interesting here is that both sides know that because of the online attention economy, they need Clavicular. He does not appear to understand any of this, though, because he's 20 years old and extremely stupid." Regarding this piece, Clavicular said, "Someone wrote a piece saying I was too stupid to understand what was going on last night." To which Mitchell replied, "Oh, it was garbage day. It was Ryan Broderick. He doesn't matter." And Clavicular responded, "I think that's good, though. It's funny." So Jackson is incredibly protective of his clients. This involves shielding them away from people who could damage their career, but also involves going on the offensive too. In February, The Atlantic wanted to write a hit piece on Clavicular and emailed Jackson a right to reply to everything mentioned in the article. In response, Jackson posted a picture of The Atlantic's owner, Laureen Powell Jobs, who's Steve Jobs' widow, with Ghislaine Maxwell. Mitchell wrote, "Hi, Will. Our statement is this photo of your boss with Ghislaine Maxwell. Please publish the photo in full as our statement." In another article about Clavicular with Slate, there's an odd paragraph which reads, "A spokesperson for Clavicular declined to make him available for an interview for this story and did not respond to a detailed list of fact-checking questions they had first requested. They did, however, send a statement that mirrored in tone previous trolling responses they'd given to other outlets. Grand Theft Auto 6 GTA 6 is officially scheduled to be released on November 19th, 2026. Clavicular also did Piers Morgan Uncensored, where Morgan tried to get him to apologize for the Miami club incident multiple times, and he gave a response which may have been devised by his publicist.
You're in a van with the Tate brothers, with Nick Fuentes, with Sneeko. When you watch that video, Are you comfortable about that?
Well, listen, Piers, historically, you've, kind of been talking about this whole thing with Ye for a little while. So I've actually got a Ye thing as well for you. So why would you go to that island, Piers?
Which island?
You know what I mean? So that's the point. Is like,
hang on. Wait a minute. No. Wait a minute. Which island? You mean the Epstein Island? Obviously, I've never been there, never met Epstein, never had any connection with him, not in the Epstein files other than references to being at lunches and things that have nothing to do with him. Well, no, you can go read them. The beauty of the Epstein files, you can go and check my name. You can read every entry. You'll see none of them have anything to do with him or his activities or anything. I'm just mentioned in passing as having been at completely unconnected events. So there's nothing to do with that. I met Ghislaine Maxwell. Well, I'm about to come to that. So I was pictured with her. Okay, I was pictured with her at a book launch for 5 minutes. I've talked about it. She admitted that under oath. The only time we'd ever met was for 5 minutes. So I have no connection to that scandal at all, other than I once met her for 5 minutes at a book launch. So let me come back to you in the van with the Heil Hitler song playing.
Well, this is like a little bit ridiculous.
Clavicular also went live streaming at the exact moment that the interview started, which took Piers Morgan and his team by surprise, because this would allow for Clippers in real time to post this before Piers Morgan was able to brush any narrative of his own or even upload it to his channels. And Piers Morgan used to be the editor of the Daily Mirror, which was then owned by Ghislaine's father, Robert Maxwell. He said that he met Ghislaine at a book launch in 2013 and spoke with her for 5 minutes. But this allowed Clavicular to gain control of the conversation. Piers then tried to get Clav to apologize, which he has been trained not to do.
Well, the thing is, Piers, I'm not political, and I didn't play the song, so that's kind of all there is to it, right? And I find it quite silly to me that you're with the #1 looks maxer, and instead of asking how you could ascend so that, your wife wouldn't tweet out captions like, "When my husband's away, Mr. Sud comes out to play," maybe if you asked me how to ascend, then that would stop happening to you. You know what I mean?
Then Clavicular tried to bring the conversation back to looks maxing, the original community that he's from.
Yeah, I absolutely understand why people are offended by it, but at the end of the day, it's like something that went viral, and like, I'm a content creator, but it was sort of more of a headache than it was a positive. So at the end of the day, and I'm not political, and this is kind of like what happened was now people are asking me all these questions about podcasts. So it's just really not something that I want anything to do with in terms of like my content to do political stuff, to do any of these like huge PR stunts. You know what I mean? So I'm simply here to advocate for, men's issues and looks maxing. So that sort of distracted from that a little bit.
So this debate could have gone either way, but the consensus among his fan base and the internet was that Clavicular had stood his ground. The top comment with 5,000 likes reads, "Came here to watch Piers get mogged." And Eddie Craven and Andrew Santamaria from Kick were incredibly impressed.
Clavicular keeps rocking the mainstream. I think he went on Piers Morgan and rocked his house a little bit, which is awesome to see. It's like this changing of the media guard from the old heads like Piers Morgan to like up and comers like Clavicular. So it's been a good week for live streaming, man. I gotta say,
Man, that was, I must say, big shout out to Clav on what he did there with Piers Morgan. It was very well played. I don't know, I think a lot of people have kind of like, obviously attempted to kind of jump on with that guy and make him look silly, but he really put him into a corner, and the way he went about it was class. It was class. I think it goes to show that I think that analogy you just made of kind of like displaying kind of like, this idea of the old guard, the old media, and this kind of new form media is such a perfect example there. Anyway, it was interesting to see. Big shout out to Clav.
So Clavicular is pretty much on the other side of the Miami nightclub controversy, even meeting with Dave Grutman, who is the head of Miami Nightlife, who unbanned him from everywhere just a couple of days later. And this is in no small part thanks to Mitchell Jackson. However, in the grand scheme of things, this controversy surrounding the HH song is pretty tame compared to what Jackson has been dealing with Candace Owens. In July of 2025, the president of France and the first lady sued Candace for accusing Brigitte Macron of being a man. In response, Jackson told the media, "Candace Owens is not shutting up. This is a foreign government attacking the First Amendment rights of an American independent journalist." And while this lawsuit is still ongoing, Owens has been making some highly inflammatory comments about Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA. So Jackson is more than capable of handling any controversies that come Clavicular's way in the future. But it's important to note that Jackson doesn't have a one-size-fits-all approach to his clients, and what he does for Clavicular could be different to what he does for Candace Owens. One particularly interesting client he worked for was Maya Henry, the ex-fiancée of Liam Payne from One Direction, who tragically died falling off of a balcony in Argentina in 2024. The response to this was to basically allow all of the outrage and drama to eventually die out. Months later, she then gave an exclusive statement to Rolling Stone magazine. And this is an example where Jackson was very much not the villainous character he's often portrayed, and instead helped someone get through a very difficult time. But instead of being a hero or a villain, he lies somewhere in the middle, in the shadows. Neither good nor bad, neither right wing or left wing, but somebody who is very good at playing the game.